The day so many of us have been anticipating for a while now has finally come, when it was announced that longtime running gag Fred was going to get a full episode focused on his famous catchphrase, saying that fans of the show were intrigued would probably be an understatement. While forcing a running gag can often be a very fickle thing to do, especially considering how many years SpongeBob has been going already, the famous "my legs" soundbite is one that not only fans of the show love, but even people who don't often watch the show are at least aware of. It's a staple of the show, no doubt, so I for one have been very skeptical going into this episode. I feared that basing an episode on a single gag, a joke character, one that was never intended to have any purpose beyond being a sort of comic relief, could end up either suffering from only relying on a singular joke, or worst of all, as a result end up destroying the joke altogether. In case you're curious, this was apparently not planned from the start, seeing as how in this Twitter conversation supervising producer Vincent Wallace says that they did in fact not plan for this episode to happen back when they first made a "my leg" gag, but rather built it off of it being a fan favorite. So this can rather be seen as either fleshing out a background character, like we've seen happening in Plankton's regular, or a return of a familiar face, which we have seen happening in multiple episodes from the 11th season, such as Bubble Bass, Plankton's pet amoeba Spot, Man Ray, and others. So it does definitely fit into the theme of reliving some of the show's staples, but whereas those characters all had at least one episode entirely dedicated to them already, this is Fred's debut as the episode's leading character, forcing the episode to find a way to incorporate all of Fred's traits into only 11 minutes, while still remaining the theme of it. So let's find out if it managed to do so, shall we? Just a quick disclaimer, this video is not going to contain any leg puns. I can't stand those. The episode starts off with what is legit one of the funniest montages I've seen in SpongeBob in a long time. They've topped every clip of him hurting his leg with the next one and then the next one, and while it's completely nonsensical, it is a great way to both introduce the running gag for unfamiliar viewers, to also give a nice introduction to what the episode is about, and provide some fan service of seeing some other ways of him, well, hurting his leg. I think my favorite personally is his leg on TV. They let anyone have a TV show these days. I bet his mom bought him that one. He wanted a knee pad or a prosthesis named after him, but whatever, I guess a TV show's cool. My leg! My leg! My leg! My leg! My leg! If you haven't gathered this much already, there's gonna be a lot of legs in this episode. According to YouTuber Gary on a Skateboard, there are 74 occurrences of leg in this episode. So yeah, it's gonna be legendary. It's funnier when written out. So this nonsensically evil doctor tells Fred that he should take better care of his leg, or else he has to give him a robotic one, which Fred seems absolutely crushed at the thought of. He's really not taking it well, so he tells the doctor he'll take better care of it from now on, which SpongeBob is set out to ensure by keeping track of his every move.
Hey everybody, look who's back! My leg!
Gotta love how they don't even remember his name, but only name him by the one characteristic they know about him. Hey guys! German guy! SpongeBob, being SpongeBob, destroys the factory in one of the show's best-looking explosions, not gonna lie, so Fred goes to a chiropractor instead, as if he didn't just literally lose his job, where Fred is supposed to walk over some hot coals to heal his legs, which I don't know if this is just a cartoon trope or not, but I always thought this to be a highly unsettling thought. I'd really get worried for my here. This, of course, results in one of the main quotes people are gonna take away from this episode. Which I can't really add anything onto, this is just ingenious writing right here. After Patrick's leg gets hurt when trying to protect Fred from a Girl Scout, Fred tells SpongeBob that he'd actually rather go back to the hospital, because he is in love with a nurse there. So they flip the switch and actively try and break Fred's leg instead. But of course, none of it is of any effect, as even the Alaskan bullworm, which you have to admit never looked cuter, refuses to do Fred any harm. This is a good opportunity to point out that this was the storyboard artist Carl Hadrika's first episode he had worked on, and to be honest, he has done a killer job at it. He has a little animation snippet he uploaded to Twitter, and there's just so much fuming rage being portrayed through little things like how the Girl Scout progressively fletches her teeth more and more, and it really makes me want to see more of this guy. When Fred tries to get run over by a train, however, and even that doesn't work, hurting all his remaining limbs instead, all that remains is screaming, "My leg!" at the top of his lungs. Which, if we've learned anything from SpongeBob over the years, is that this is sure to get the ambulance to basically run in your door. So at the hospital, we get to meet the love of Fred's life, Miss Bazooka, which, personally, you know, she seems nice.
Sponge bath time.
Oh no, the Pat Bob artists are gonna be all over this episode. So when Nurse Bazooka is just about to treat them, Fred whips out his ukulele and gives us what is already one of my personal favorite SpongeBob songs, at least from the 11th season, which, to be honest, you have to experience for yourself first if you haven't seen this episode, especially how Fred's leg gets cut off by the end card transition. This was pretty ingenious. And this wraps up my leg. So what did I think of it? Oh my leg. This episode's funny as heck. It is one thing to improve upon a running gag without running it into the ground, but still delivering with one of the most creative episodes of a season, which I personally think is already filled with creativity to the brim. Now that's something else entirely. This episode squeezed in so many moments that legitimately made me laugh, without it being redundant with its visual gags, something that some of the previous episodes have been heavily criticized for. Plus, it even managed to get some running gags into the singular episode, such as the robot and the ambulance showing up whenever someone shouts "my leg," not to mention that it even had a song in the end that didn't feel forced in any way. The only rather nitpicky complaints I had with it were how quickly Fred's face snaps back into position here, and that some of SpongeBob lines were a bit unfunny and kind of forced. I would have wished for more puns, is all I'm saying, okay? But overall, I have to admit that this was a very creative, fun episode, and a definite advancement on the running gag in terms of there at least being some depth and reasoning behind why he always just screams the one thing, which nobody asked for, I know, but sometimes there doesn't have to be a real reason for an episode to exist if it still delivers on its premise, which this one certainly did, especially considering how cautious I was in terms of them running this gag into the ground, which they didn't really do at all. I'll actually be even more happy to hear Fred say "my leg" now that I know he'll be able to go to the hospital again. So yeah, I'd suggest checking it out. It was leg-excellent. I'll see myself out. Hey guys, just a quick thank you to all 4,000 of you. It has been such a crazy 4 months already, and I'm so grateful for every single one of you. I initially had a special plan for 2,000 subs, which I already moved from 2,000 to 3, and now we're at 4, and it's getting kind of hard for me to keep up, so I guess I'll just say thank you right here, right now. And stay tuned for the worst episode in the entire frickin' show.